Holy potatoes. This is a little different than the feeling we had last Tuesday. Mitch Tischler with us here on the Hoffman Show. Mitchell, live from Ashburn, presumably, ahead of Commander's open locker room in just a few minutes. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing fantastic. Certainly a little bit of a different vibe than last week when we talked. No holy potatoes this week.
No, the potatoes still need to be blessed. Mitchell, let's can I do a big picture thing with you real quick and lean into your TV experience for a moment?
Please.
So, my big gripe on the officiating is not necessarily any particular call. I certainly have disagreements, but it is the setup of specifically the 4th and 9. This is a multi-billion-dollar industry. They're still using chains to measure first downs. There are all kinds of high-definition cameras. There are like 30 of them around the stadium. How they don't have some kind of down-the-line shot that is extraordinarily clear, not to mention some kind of microchip in the ball, is beyond me. For those that don't know in the audience, Mitchell, on top of being the fantastic co-host of the Beltway Football Podcast, has been working in television production for Monumental Sports, NBC Sports Washington, Comcast Sportsnet, whatever it was going by at the time, for a long, long time. He's very well versed in these things, in all kinds of television. So Mitchell, after that giant windup, why the hell isn't there a camera that has a very clean shot down the first down marker? As that's a very important part of the game that is very predictable and seems like there should be a camera there.
Yeah, I mean, listen, different broadcasts have different levels. Just like you have the broadcast teams, you have production teams that are A, B, C, and D as well. And when you're the A team, you generally get kind of the entire accoutrement of cameras and everything that these different networks have, and some of them have the pylon cams that are at the first down marker that look straight across. Unfortunately, the broadcast on Sunday was not utilizing that technology. The league can only use whatever cameras that the broadcast team has on site, and so the review room back in New York gets a raw feed of every camera that they have, as well as the all 22 camera that they use when you look at breaking down film or whatever. But the review room can't magically come up with different camera angles that are looking straight down the line. So ultimately they get whatever the production crew provides. And typically the rolling cart that I think folks are familiar with that rolls up and down the sidelines usually is set up around the first down line and gives you more or less that look straight down the line. For whatever reason, and I think probably game time and distance specific, the card wasn't shooting straight down the first down line, and ultimately the league only could use the video angles that they had. And while I agree with you, I don't think it was a particularly good spot. There was nothing that we saw, and I know folks are going to point to the knee being down and the angle of it that we saw from the 50-yard line, but they had no angle that definitively said that he got the first down there. Now, they could have easily re-spotted it and then marched out the archaic chains to come and do that. Unfortunately, they didn't. They decided not to do that, and I'm not exactly sure what went into that. But the other thing is the technology inside the football that everyone loves to talk about isn't quite as feasible on an NFL field, because that line that you're trying to mark is constantly moving. So there's math and everything else that has to go into what that would look like, as opposed to soccer and tennis that have, the automatic VAR, or have the VAR, and electronic in out of the ball. Those are all set lines. You think about a goal line in soccer, that's always in the same spot. That first down line is moving every single, drive, every single couple of plays. So it's a lot more difficult to implement that sort of technology, but I have no doubt that there's some very smart people out there that are working on it, and the NFL has a lot of money. I'm sure they can figure out a way to get it done. So
that leads to, I guess, my technological follow-up here, which is the broadcast can kind of, I won't say can do whatever it wants. Like, certainly the NFL would be pretty ticked off if CBS was just like, hey guys, we're gonna shoot this one on $100 budget, so you get what you get. Like, that's not gonna fly. But couldn't the league install cameras? And they've got like the second spectrum system, whatever the hell they call it in the NBA, where they track all 10 players and the ball at all times with pretty exacting accuracy. And it's more of like a dot system than it is actual film. But they have a way to then turn that into some kind of readout that they can see and really, pretty precise spacing on. So maybe there's a version of that. But also just, again, on like the pure video side of it, like how hard would it be on that rolling cart to say you can have a camera that swivels on top of that thing, but we're also going to mount one to the cart. It's going to be exactly at the first down line, and it's going to shoot straight. And that way, if we ever need that, we have it. Like why, or could the league dictate that? And why, if they have billions of dollars, wouldn't they?
So, I mean, the cart is run by the production, not run by the league. And if you want to get into, should the league mandate that every game is produced and shot and created the same way so that every game has equal camera angles and equal camera operators and, all those different things, you're getting into a little bit of a different horse, I would say there. But as far as the cart goes, I don't know how much you've watched the carts, but there's literally a guy who's driving it up and down the sideline. There's no yard markers or, there's no, pylons for them to make sure that they pull up directly exactly at the line of scrimmage, just shoot straight down. It's a human operated, mechanism. So listen, I think that there needs to be, the next step in terms of this, review that the league is doing. And I think you can, look at kind of the progression over the years where there was no reviews that were being done at all. It was just whatever the refs called on. Then you have a couple red flags you can call for certain things. Now this year, the league is automatically looking at certain calls and plays, and they're, calling down to the refs on the field to correct, obvious mistakes that have happened. And I think the next step is probably the ball technology to find a way to track it. I know you mentioned the NBA version of it. Next Gen Sports has the dots that we all look at, after some plays, and they do track, all 22 players on the field as well as the football. But we're talking about the need for that tracking to be an exact science, not a, it's generally around the 45-yard line, because that's where the difference is between, basketball to some extent and football. If you put the tracker in the middle of the football and it generally is aware of where it is on the field, you kind of can get a general feel, but it's not an exact science to it. I think it's coming. I think that as much as it's frustrating for us to watch a game and recognize that there's all this technology out there and it's not being applied to the sport that we're watching is frustrating. The Commanders aren't the first fan base, aren't the first team to feel like they got the short end of the stick on a mark or a bad call by an official. And I think we're seeing, kind of the process of where the NFL started to kind of where they want to get to as far as reviews go. And we're kind of right in the middle of that time space continuum.
Yeah, no, I think that's well put. And to be clear on my point, I know a lot of fans are obviously upset specifically about the Ertz call. My larger point is like, for a multi-billion-dollar operation, this is just not good enough across the board because the human beings in the stripes, they missed the spot. They also missed a hold on T.J. Watt in the end zone. So, it tends to come out bad calls each way in the wash, but just like less bad calls overall. They have too much money to not figure it out, and it's kind of the most important thing, which is the game itself.